If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to another episode of the Property Rebel with your host Arsh. And in this session we're going to be talking about lease options and whether they do actually really work or whether it is just a myth. Before we do that, I want to say a quick hello and welcome to all new listeners and all returning listeners. Can you believe it? Next week, the Property Rebel podcast will be a year old. 52 weeks of continuous recording and sharing golden nuggets and knowledge. We're going to throw in there some prizes for next week, which also includes a year-long mentorship. And I'll tell you a little bit about that towards the end of this session. So let's get straight into it. Lease options, what are they and do they really work? Well, first of all, a lease option is exactly that. You have two elements to it, the lease and then the option. You can lease a property off someone and then also put the option to purchase within the lease period. So just give you an example. If someone wants to rent their property out and let's just say you take on a long-term, let's call it a rent to rent, because the lease option is an extension of the rent to rent. So you lease the property for 5 years at a rent of £500 a month. And this is all as an example. So within the 5-year period, you're paying £500 a month. But with the lease option, what you tend to do is agree the purchase price from the outset. So you can say, well, this property, let's just say it's worth £100,000. You may say that I'm going to purchase the property off you at £100,000, so I'm going to agree the price today, but the purchase price or the purchase transaction won't happen until later on down the line, and it could be any time within that 5-year period. Bear in mind that with lease options, it can be a shorter period, it can be a longer period. It is all down to subject to negotiation, and that's the beautiful thing about it. Now, why would someone do this? The reason why someone would do this is because they could be in negative equity. It could be that the property is in bad condition. It doesn't always have to be about price. And the one thing I always say in a lot of my podcasts and content is that price should be one of the last things that you discuss. As I record this, I'm actually sat in my holiday cottage, or what I would consider my second home down in Cornwall. Now, I took this property on a 10-year lease up. When this deal originally came to me, the owner was after a simple below market value purchase or a sale. So he thought that the property was worth around £240,000 and he was prepared to sell it at £200,000. Now, when you look at it from that point of view, it's approximately near enough like 15 to 20% below market value. And when I started to dive down into the real issue as to why the vendor wanted to sell the property below market value, it was because there were lots of other factors affecting his decision. And this was the fact that he was abroad, he didn't have anyone to manage it, the people that he previously had to manage it were messing him about and he wasn't getting paid. So I asked the question that if someone was to offer him a long-term guaranteed rent, would he consider that option? And after a bit of to and froing and in he getting to understand what was actually being offered, he actually considered it. So off the back of that, I said, well, if you're still interested in selling, I'll still be open to purchasing, but it would be within the period of the lease. So we actually agreed. So we agreed a 10-year lease option where I paid £700 a month, and the purchase price we set at the £200,000 because that was what he was happy with. Now, taking this one step further, how does he benefit from this? He benefits from this from a residual income, which is completely hands off. He doesn't have to deal with any maintenance or any issues. He won't have to deal with any of the things that he had previously, such as, people not paying him, having to deal with maintenance and everything that goes around with that. So if you work on the basis of the maths, that £700 a month is £8,400 a year. Now, over a 10-year period, that's going to equate to £84,000 worth of income that I've said that he's going to get over a 10-year period. Plus, he's going to have the £200,000 which he was after. So in essence, his £200,000 purchase has now, in essence, could become a £284,000 transaction. So this is how I kind of spell it out to the vendor. Moving on from that, I've worked on the basis that when I'm not using this as my second home, I put this out on Airbnb, booking.com, etc. and we run it as a holiday cottage. And we generate on average around between £1,500 to £2,000 a week for this property. So after all costs, it generates around £2,000 a month, between £1,500 to £2,000 a month. Let's just use the best case scenario, £2,000 a month, which means that this property is going to generate £24,000 a year in cash flow, and over a 10-year period, it's going to produce £240,000. These are just all headline figures. The intention, or my intention with this property and your intention with a lease option, should be to do exactly the same, that you take control of a property, and that property should be generating sufficient income for it to be able to purchase itself within the period, or at the very least act towards the 25% deposit that you're going to require to acquire the property. I should say here that with a lease option, you have the option to purchase the property. You do not have the obligation. So after the 10-year period, you could very easily just hand the property back. There are lots of ways that you can utilize this to your advantage as a property investor. More importantly, you should also be using the benefits of the lease option to sell the idea of the lease option to the vendor. And give you another example. Why would a vendor give you a property? It could be that they're in negative equity. Giving you an example here, let's just say that they purchased a property at the height of the market in 2008 and they purchased it for £100,000. And today, let's just say that it's only worth £80,000. Now, if they purchased it with an 85 or 90% mortgage, which they were handing out back then, or even potentially a 100% mortgage, depending on how they purchased it, it could mean that they're in negative equity. And if they've been on an interest-only mortgage, it means that the debt level will still remain the same of 85, 90 or £100,000, depending on which product they took. Now, off the back of that, if they were to try and sell the property on with an estate agent and they were marketing at £80,000, it actually means that this property will now be costing them money to sell. Because if the mortgage is 85, 90 or £100,000 and they're selling it for 80, when they come to redeem the mortgage company is going to say, okay, we appreciate that you're selling it for 80,000, but we've actually got an £85,000 loan on it, which means that you're going to have to find the 5,000 plus the legal costs plus all the other bits that go with it. So in essence, they're going to need around another, in total £7,000, £8,000 to sell the property, which means that they're actually making a loss. Now, you could benefit, or you could arrange it where they're not making a loss. You could say, I'll tell you what, guys, I'll take this property off you for, in essence, you could say the term of the mortgage. Now, lots of mortgages are approximately 25 years. And if this person's got another 15 or 20 years remaining on the mortgage, just imagine they took it in 2008 and we're now in 2021, which means they've done approximately 13 years on their term. Means that they've got approximately 12 years left. You could take the property on for a 12-year term and say to them, guys, okay, I appreciate that your mortgage is £200 a month. I'm going to pay the £200 a month, and I'm also going to then, at the end of the term, purchase the property off you at whatever the outstanding balance is on your mortgage. Now, at the moment, as it stands, it could be 85 or 90,000 pounds. But you'd like to think that in 12 years' time, this property is going to at least appreciate in value, or definitely get up to the point as to where the mortgage debt level is. In the meanwhile, you've been generating income from a property that you don't own and you simply control, and hopefully the cash flow that you've generated will self-fund the deposit and the transaction. And that is the benefit and the beauty of a lease option. I've done this time and time again. Other examples as to where lease options come into play is where the property has been left in a rundown condition. How many times do you come across properties where they've got structural issues, they've got other issues, the tenant has left it run down, the current owner can't afford to do the work to it, and this is the best way to structure a lease option where someone's got pain and money may not be their main motivator. If someone needs the money out of their property, go off and purchase another property, a lease option may not be the best option for them. So you do have to consider all angles, and the way that you structure a lease option is understanding the person's motivation to do the deal. Is it that they need the money now? If that's the case, a lease option may not work, or you may be able to structure it where you offer them a little bit of money, and does that amount of money give them enough to go on to their next move? So if they're moving out of this property to move into a rental property, do they need the first month's rent and deposit? Will that help? And I've done that plenty of times. So you've got to look is what is it that they're actually looking to achieve, where they're going, how much money do they need out of the deal? Can you structure it where you offer them something, or is it the fact that you're literally taking on their property, giving them a guaranteed rent plus the purchase associated in the transaction within that period? Remember, it's an option, not an obligation. So if you decide that that property doesn't work, you can simply hand the property back. I should say that you don't go into lease options with the option of handing it back. You should be looking to fulfill your obligation. Not obligation, but you should be looking to fulfill the transaction with the purchase at the end. So just to give you an example, my property in Cornwall, even though I've got the option to purchase £200,000, I believe from other comparables right now, I'm in the second year that this property has increased in value down to staycations and everything that's happened over the last few years, that this property is going to be worth at the moment approximately 240,000, and we believe that with staycation and the boom of the UK holiday market that it will increase further, going up to 270 to 280,000. And based on the factor that if it does value up at these kind of figures, not only will I made cash flow, not only will the property fund itself, but also I would have then built up a 20 to 30% equity in the property as well. The owner obviously benefits from the cash flow of the rent that he's made, plus him getting the full contractual value, which is a £200,000. So I would have fulfilled his obligations. I would have made money from a property that I don't own. I would have been able to take advantage of any additional equity. And one of the questions that people always ask is this legal? Is this all above board? Absolutely, because with a lease option, it all has to go through solicitors. So when I did this deal in Cornwall, he allocated his own solicitor, I allocated my solicitor. My solicitor prepared the contract and sent it over to his solicitor. They all went through it. There has to be a consideration. So there has to be a payment consideration, even if it's something as small as £1. So have you ever heard of the term, I purchased a property for £1? That's what it is. I gave him £1 as part of the consideration of the contract. So as a result of that, he has to sell me this property at £200,000. I have to pay the rent at £700 a month, based on the fact that we both do what we say we're going to do, and he gets his rent. I don't default. I keep the property in good order, etc., and do all the terms as part of the contract. He has to sell me the property at £200,000. So anytime within this 10-year period, it's what is called a trigger. So there's a trigger to purchase, a trigger to create the option. So in the option agreement, there's the purchase price at £200,000. So anytime within the 10-year period, I can trigger the option to purchase, which means that I can say to the seller, I'm now ready to buy, you now are ready to sell. As soon as I say I'm ready to buy, he has to say, okay, Arsh, let's do the transaction. And that's how lease options work. They are a great strategy, and it's definitely worth exploring. And every time you go to meet a vendor, I would seriously suggest that you look at all the angles and see whether purchasing it right now is the best option for the seller, because it not only could work out for them, but it could also definitely work for you too. So there you have it, guys. Lease options definitely do work. As we're sat here, I'm actually sat in one of the bedrooms in a property that I've taken on a lease option, and it really, really is, for me, it's a lifestyle thing, because whenever I want to get away, I can jump in the car and I'm here within 4 hours, and I'm literally 200 meters away from the beach and the sea. And it's something that I did more so for me and my children, so that we can, when we want to, come and spend some time out of the city and enjoy some of the rural life. So hopefully you've enjoyed the content. Now, as I said at the start of this podcast, next week, episode 52, means that it marks a whole year of the Property Rebel. What I'm going to be doing is that next week I'm going to be doing a massive giveaway. And I'm going to give someone the opportunity to do a whole year's training with me for absolutely free. And in order to do that, you've got to do something for me. So I will be asking you to share this podcast out on your social media timeline, tagging me into it. And I will be picking out a person to come and join my flagship training program, which is the Elite Property Tribe, which is 52 weeks of training and also support with me. And off the back of that, one lucky winner will win that. But in order for you to do that, you'll be having to share next week's podcast, so episode 52, on all your social media timelines, and you'll have to share it with me. And in addition to that, we'll also be asking everyone that enters to leave us a review on a podcast store. So whether you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, whether you listen to it on Google Podcasts, we'd like you to leave us a review. And again, send us a screenshot, and one lucky winner will win the year's mentorship. On top of that, we're going to also have a second and third place where you win a specific course with me, or if you want a 10-minute call with me, we'll have lots of 10-minute calls for those that don't win the initial prize. So I'm hoping that that really works, and I get to meet a lot of you guys as well. So guys, just finally, as always, I mentioned that I've got a YouTube channel which I release content to every Thursday at 4 p.m. If you haven't already checked out my YouTube channel, please go to YouTube and look under the handle of Arsh. As well as that, you can connect with me on social media. Find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter and the Clubhouse under the handle of Arsh. And then finally, have you downloaded the Property Investor app? Believe it or not, the Property Investor app has become 2 years old. At the same time, this is becoming 1 year old as well. That's a bit of a coincidence. So you can go to the App Store, type in Property Investor, and you'll see all kinds of deals all over the country, which is below market value deals, rent-to-rent deals, lease option deals like we've been discussing today, and they're all in the palm of your hand. If you don't really like using smartphones, you can go to our website, which is www.propertyinvestorapp.co.uk. So guys, as always, I'm going to log off now. I'm going to go spend some time on the beach in Cornwall. So I wish you all to be safe, well and happy, and I look forward to speaking to you all very soon. Thank you and bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.